I think we can get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Civil Seminar. So today it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Majid Elmadhoon. As a quick background, Majid has a master's degree in civil engineering and transportation from Carleton University in Ottawa, and his professional experience in transportation planning and design includes traffic operational analysis, transportation master planning, transportation impact studies, intelligent transportation systems, road designs, among others. So in the past 30 years, his experience includes both working in the government and in the private sector. So it would be great if Majid can also share some of his personal experience working in these two sectors. And he has been professional working both in Canada and overseas. So before joining the Niagara region, about 2 years ago, Majid worked in the City of London for 13 years, in Morrison, Hirschfield, in Ottawa and Calgary, and in UAE. So Majid has been also teaching transportation engineering at Western University for the last 4 years. Some of the key projects that Majid has managed includes the London 2030 Transportation Master Plan, the City of London Road Safety Strategy, Downtown Parking Strategy, and the London Complete Streets Design Manual. So again, it's a great pleasure to have Majid with us. And with that, please join me in welcoming Majid to give his presentation, which is entitled Moving Towards Complete Streets. So thank you, Majid, whenever you're ready. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Reza. Thank you very much. Thank you, appreciate it. Sorry for the long bio. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, it's not full screen, but we can see the slides.
I'm just trying to see.
I think if you go down.
Yeah, I go down. It's just that the.
Okay.
To move this, yeah, it's covering the. Okay. Pictures.
Okay.
That seems okay now, everyone?
Yes.
Is it clear? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you, Reza, very much. Appreciate it. My name is Majid. I'm really, it's my pleasure to present to you Complete Streets today. Now, if this was an in-person presentation, I would have asked how many, just a show of hands, how many know view would know what complete streets mean. So, but again, it's virtual. But today I will explain what complete street means and why we are moving, or why lots of government, lots of municipalities are moving towards complete streets. Okay, don't know why this is, the return button is not working. Okay, now it's okay. All right, so so this is the agenda for today's meeting. I will give you some background about transportation, because I know many of you are more into the civil engineering structure discipline than in the transportation field. So just to give you some idea, and then I will have a quick introduction about transportation planning, why complete streets, and then the bulk part of the presentation will be about best practices from London and from Niagara. And then I will talk also about the London bus rapid transit. And then I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay. I just want to tell you something. Whenever when I start my class in transportation, when I teach transportation at Western, I usually ask the students, what do you know about transportation? Do you know what transportation means? And for the public, or even for the students who are not familiar with the terminology, with the term transportation, some of them would say, well, transportation means transport trucks, for example. Or some will think transportation means it's public transit, mean take the bus. Even if you tell someone, just if you talk to someone on the street and you tell them I'm a transportation engineer, the minute they hear transportation, they might think something different. So transportation is more than a bus, and it's more than a truck, and transportation is really moving people and goods from one location to another. It's for all modes of transportation. It's not even land transport. If you take a plane and you fly, that's transportation, but it's air transportation. And of course, the focus in a municipality for us is more in a land transportation. It is essential for nation development and growth, and also for strong economy. That's why you find big cities, strong cities, they have good transportation system. Now, objective of a transportation system design, really there are different objectives and more than 3, but it's threefold. These are the main ones. Accessibility, which is the ability to reach a given location. If you provide a transportation system that is not accessible, then there is something missing. One of the main objectives is missing. Mobility, ability to make a trip by walking, driving, riding a bicycle, and public transit. You want to make sure that you are achieving this goal. And then also very important is safety. Because with any transportation system, there is a challenge, and there is an adverse impact of a transportation system, which is safety. We have, road collisions, property collisions, fatalities, injuries. So there are negative incidents, but how can you design your system in a way to try to mitigate these by providing a good design system? I don't think we have time. If anyone is interested, can watch this YouTube. Maybe I can, let me see if I can, I just want to exit. I'm not sure why this yet. If I can copy paste it on the screen chat and people can just paste it and watch it later on. Just because it takes time and I'm not sure if this works in a Zoom setting. It's a nice video that was done by the City of London. Okay, sorry for this. I'm not sure why this is not. It was done when the City of London was preparing the. Okay, so I'll leave it for anyone that is interested. You can watch the video at your own time. It gives you more information about mobility and transportation system and how it works. For many years, and this is kind of an introduction to the complete streets and how we got there. We liked our cars for almost a century, right? And everyone, I drive my car, I go to work using my car, I go shopping using my car, and there is nothing wrong with that because it's very convenient, it's easy, you just leave your home and you ride your car and you go anywhere you want. And even in the last 100 years, most governments, the funding for transportation was in relation to building roads and maintaining roads for cars, not necessarily maintaining roads for transit or maintaining roads for cycling. It's more for cars. And then also you can find all type of automobiles and all type of manufacturers and brands, and you buy the car you want. And it's also relatively not expensive, at least to date. But then at one point, the governments realized that this is not sustainable and that we need to think of a sustainable transportation system for many reasons. One, because of climate change. We all hear about climate change, of course. And then rising prices of oil, which is driving the cost of gasoline even up. We can see that now. At any instant there is a war or there is some conflicts in the world, gas prices go up. And also the auto industry has suffered some setbacks in the last few years for different reasons. I don't know, Riza, should I just wait to the end for any questions? Better, I guess. Okay. So transportation planning. Transportation planning is before you start designing roads, or designing any transportation system, you always start with planning. And as I said, realizing that we need to think of sustainable transportation system, many municipalities and regions start thinking when they do their transportation master plan, they have to think of a new mobility system. What you see on the right-hand side here is an example from London when the City of London did their transportation master plan called the Smart Moves about 12 years ago. It was more of the transit focus, okay? And the master plan provided more attractive travel choices. That was the intent. So these are the objectives of the TMP: enhance mobility for all transportation users, encourage the emergence of more transit, pedestrian, bike-friendly urban form, and support the concept of complete streets. These were the main recommendations that came out of the TMP. And you can see on the top right corner there, you can see this is the bus rapid transit routes that was recommended as part of the master plan. You can see the north-south route in blue, all the way from Masonville Mall to White Oak Mall, and then the east-west route from Wonderland or from even Hyde Park, all the way Hyde Park to Fanshawe College. And they both intersect in a transit hub in downtown. And I will speak about the BRT towards the end of this presentation. But that doesn't mean that you still need to look at roads. You can see the figure at the bottom right here. It shows you some of the road widening that is needed, because you still have to provide also, you know, good driving conditions. So why complete streets? Why now we are shifting towards complete street? Because it accommodates the mobility needs of all ages, abilities, and modes of travel, provides a safe and comfortable access for pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, and drivers, provide physical environment that make all forms of mobility attractive, comfortable, and efficient, and improve health and activity levels and reduce traffic congestion. Because let's say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, most municipalities were more thinking about just how they build roads. Maybe sometimes you have sidewalks, but not more thinking of cycling, and also how you can make other modes of transportation attractive. Just to get you the sense of what I mean by that, these are some of the best practices before and after. And I have to tell you that this is just very small component of complete streets. It's not everything. Because complete streets, although it's been maybe for 10 years, 15 years, it is still considered the new approach in designing transportation system. And you don't find a lot of examples of really fully complete street roads that have been implemented yet. This is, for example, from Main Street in Ottawa, where you have before, and you can see this is an intersection. It's nothing, it's just some asphalt pavement and some pavement marking, and how, now you have a green box here for cyclists, bike lane, and then we call this the elephant feet. So cyclists can continue and cross there. This is in Hamilton. And again, you can see before and you can see after. You have physically separating cycling from cars. Another one here in Brantford, where, again, you have just a 2-lane road. It's not very clear. It was widened. There's a gateway and there's a median there. And maybe here you have also some sidewalk or multi-use path. This is Queen's Quay in Toronto, where they have a wider sidewalk and you have transit, and you can see how it's definitely something livable, not dry like this one. This is in Vancouver, before, after, and this is in London, Ontario. Again, this is Colburn Road. Many of you may be familiar with it. And this was implemented a few years ago when they put the cycle tracks, separating it from the road. And finally, a good example that was recently implemented in London, if you are familiar with downtown, is the Dundas Street. This is before, and this is after, where you have a wider sidewalk, and they have on-street parking that they remove during events. They can close the road, and this is called the Dundas Place. So what do you need to know? We couldn't do complete street just for a municipality, just to make a guidelines from nothing. You have to have some policies to support it. So planning policies in any municipality, this is general. I mean, this is related to City of London, but this is general to any other city. For London, for example, you have the municipal official plan, which is the London plan, and the transportation master plan. These are the planning policy that support the guideline. Then you have the planning studies, like the cycling master plan, rapid transit, which is called also shift when during the EA process. And then the design guidelines, for example, we are talking about complete street design manual here. So what is complete streets? For London, when they did it, they did, and I will explain what these typologies mean. They had 8 street classifications or typologies in the manual. The London plan identified design feature that should be included on each typology. So you have 8 street classification, different street classifications or typologies, and the official plan or the City of London plan determined what features each road would have. And then also the CSDM provided cross-section for each street typology and an illustration of how those different elements can fit together. This is just a screenshot from London, and this is Wonderland Road crossing Commissioner's Road. Now, based on the complete streets, Commissioner Roads is called Civic Boulevard, and Wonderland is called Urban Thoroughfare. Now, what does that mean? And what is the change? You can see here on the right, there is functional classification, and then the London plan classification, which is the complete streets. The normal way we call things, or at least we used to call it, you have arterial, primary, secondary collector, local, and rural roads. To date, or at least a few years ago, if you drive in Oxford Road or Wonderland Road or Southdale or Sarnia Road or Fanshawe Park Road, they are all called arterials. I think this terminology is familiar with everyone. You just go to arterial road, but other roads on the side, these ones that go between residential and they are called collectors or local streets. And the complete streets look at all of these typologies. But for the main road, it was time to distinguish between each road and another road for arterials. That's why the arterial road was split into 4 categories, as you can see here in the screen. 1 typology is called Rapid Transit Boulevard, Main Street, Urban Thoroughfare, and Civic Boulevard. And as I'm noting here, each classification was accomplished with policies and guide future planning and design towards an intended character and function. Because when you drive on Wonderland, you can see that's a very busy road, has high traffic volume. It's linking South London with North London. It's linking Highway 401 all the way to the south and to the north. And it's a very commercial corridor, where if you go to Commissioner's Road, it's less traffic, still have good amount of traffic. It's mostly residential. It's still linking to the east and to the west, but really not as Wonderland is doing. And that's why it is different. We call this Urban Thoroughfare and we call Commissioner's Civic Boulevard. To give you some idea here, and I didn't put all these, I did not really include all the typologies because I just didn't want to take long. I just giving you a few examples how we are transitioning from the normal just a cross section that is dealing only with cars into something that is more complete and conform to the complete street approach. This is an urban thoroughfare. This is, for example, Wonderland Road. That's how it looks right now. And this is how it's supposed to look at one point in time, where you can, maybe it's not very clear, but you can see here, this is sidewalk. You can see here the off-street cycling, bus station, and then maybe widen to 6 lanes in the future. And it has bigger right-of-way. This is a civic boulevard, okay? And this would be similar to Hyde Park. If you drive on Hyde Park Road, you can see, although Hyde Park Road was widened into 4 lanes before complete streets was completed, but it still has some of the complete street elements that we are looking for. It has a median with some planting. It has a bike lane, but it is on street. Now we're trying to move away from having on-street cycling facilities, and based on this cross section, you can see it is off the street. So it is not on the road to make it safe, safer for cyclists. This is a cross section and a typical cross section between a rapid transit corridor and the main street. And this is where the buses will be in the middle. And you can see again how we are trying to accommodate all modes of transportation, making it easy for cyclists to cross, same thing for pedestrians. At the same time, it's also for the bus rapid transit, or bus rapid transit. Another one, this is urban thoroughfare with Civic Boulevard. And again, this is just an example how you can have, even at the corners here, you have a wider area for people to stand, and also very safe. You have crosswalks and cross rides for transportation users to use. In 2018, the City of London won the Award of Transportation Planning Project of the Year by the Ontario Traffic Council for this complete street study. Actually, it's 2019. Sorry for that. So that's it. This is an example of a best practice from London. I'm going now to go to the Niagara region, where they have something similar. Of course, there are most of the other Ontario municipalities in Canada and in the States, they have developed complete streets as well. But then again, they have to based on official plans. So in Niagara, they have the Transportation Master Plan was approved in 2017. It is a 25-year plan, provides a strategic vision for transportation in Niagara. It recommended complete streets to be a vision and direction for a changing region. They have a strategic cycling network, transit strategy, and road network strategy. All this came from the Transportation Master Plan. Now, the Niagara region, which extends all the way from just edges of Hamilton to Niagara Falls and to the south, has a different road system than, for example, City of London. City of London is a one-tier government. It's just a city hall municipality, where in Niagara, it is really a two-tier government. So Niagara region, two-tier government. It's the Niagara region and the local municipalities. And it's comprised of 12 municipalities, local municipalities. The road system within the region, include provincial roads like the QEW, regional roads that links all municipalities, and then you have local roads, and you have the Niagara Park Commission within the Niagara Falls area. And currently, again, same like London, arterial is the only street classification based on the region official plan of all regional roads. The complete streets, which is ongoing right now, and it's still in its draft, have recommended 7 street typologies or classifications. And I'm not expecting you that you should really try to understand each this flow chart and how we got there. I'm just trying to tell you how we reach into the street classifications and why, based on the planning, based on the traffic volume, based on the location. And that's how you go from one step to another. And that's how you can decide what is the street typology, whether it's urban general or whether it's thoroughfare and whatever. So this is all went into the work. There is a lot of work behind it. It's just that for you to know that it's not that someone came and say, we want this street to be urban general or we want this street to be rural scenic, for example. No, each road, there is a reason why it has been designed that way. And this is just give you the length of each street topology in the entire region. And you can see here that more than half or more than 50% of the regional roads are rural. And this is different from, for example, London, where maybe 90% of the streets in London are urban, of course, and not too many rural. Again, I'm going to give you a few examples of some of these roads and how they will look like if they are implemented. This is a main street, and main streets normally are within downtown areas, historic areas. It has commercials, and it's just a 2-lane road. And you can see here, you have now added, cycling, wider sidewalk for pedestrian, and some street furniture and some tree planting there. Urban general wide. This is similar to Civic Boulevard in London, for example, where you have a 4-lane. You might have a median. It could have a median or not. It could have a 2-way left-hand lane in the middle. You have 2 lanes each direction. And again, we have cycle tracks, as you can see here, and sidewalks. Rural scenic, again, 2-lane. It does have some on-street cycling. And you can see here we have some ditches, but because again it's rural. There's also an audit tool have been developed in order to determine the priority when we implement. Something I did not talk about is the right-of-way. Right-of-way is not always available because the municipality or the region, they can go and build a road, but they cannot encroach into other private property unless they purchase it. And sometimes this is very expensive. So they have to work within the limit of their right-of-way. And sometimes you don't have, for example, this one is about 30 meters. Sometimes you don't even have the 30 meters. Sometimes maybe you have right-of-way of 25 meters. What do you do? What do you do in this case? What should you eliminate from here? And this tool give you some direction, based on the priority, which element we can remove. For example, maybe we can remove the center lane, or maybe we can reduce the cycle track or remove it. We say cycling in this route is not important. So this is, again, it's still in draft, but this gives some direction where you can really prioritize and think the best way how you can do that. So that's it for complete streets. But again, for complete street design manual. However, I also wanted to give you some information about the rapid transit network in London, because it fits into the complete streets. Because remember what I said, complete streets, it's about moving all transportation users, including walking, cycling, transit, and everything. And London has been working on the bus rapid transit for many years now, on the studies. And last year was in 2021, they started the first phase in downtown, which has been completed, which is the loop. We call it the loop, and they have already finished King Street for that. And I'll just go through it. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the project. So bus rapid transit, it was approved in 2017 by council, City of London Council. It has 38 stops, 24 kilometers. Now, this information is not necessarily 100% again, accurate. Things keep changing. This was the plan. For example, a few years ago, council paused on the north leg. So this is, again, as I mentioned before, you have north-south and you have east-west bus rapid transit. The council at one point, they put a pause on the north leg, which goes through Western University, although it is the most important link, and also the west leg. And like any big project, it has to be funded by the government, by all federal and provincial government. And in this case, the federal government and the province have already agreed into funding this project. That said, as I said, right now, the plan is to do the east leg and the south leg, but I heard that they will look back again into this in order to make it a complete. So what bus rapid transit mean? It means that you will have dedicated bus lanes, not the current system that you see where buses are on the road. They will be separated. In this case, they will be in the middle, as you can see here. They have priority over traffic. They have good transit station, heated, maybe washroom, things like this. So this is the bus rapid transit. You can see, don't have to go through the numbers here. You can read it yourself, but you make a system that is reliable, that is fast, and that way you can encourage people to take the buses. I already talked about that. So this is just an explanation of each leg. North leg, which, as I said, it goes all the way from downtown to Masonville Mall, and it can go through Western University if Western agreed to that. And this is just a rendering, an example of Richmond Road at Oxford Street, how it would look. So that's the bus lanes in the middle. This is Richmond Street at Grosvenor Street, looking north again. And this is St. Joseph Hospital to the right of the screen. Richmond Street at Hillview, that's near Masonville Mall. This is the parking for Masonville Mall, as you can see here. And then you have the east leg, which goes from downtown on Dundas, and then it goes Highbury, goes back to Oxford. And you can see here where it says to the airport. So this is just a future leg into the airport. This is just Oxford Street East at Fanshawe College. And you can see here Fanshawe College here. And that's kind of the end where the bus will loop and go back again. And then the south leg, which is go mostly along Wellington Street all the way to White Oak Mall. And Wellington Road and Commissioner Road, again, just an example here, along Wellington looking north at downtown London. This is Clark's Bridge, Wellington Road. So you get, this is very clear. You can see traffic and you can see the middle lanes here. Wellington Road at White Oak Mall. Where is this? Again, there is a bus station here. And finally, well, not finally, there's still the downtown. You have the west leg, okay, which goes through Queensbridge and goes through Warnicliffe and go back to Oxford Road to Wonderland. Although the master plan have recommended that it goes all the way to Hyde Park Road, when the environmental assessment study was done, it stopped at Wonderland Road. Riverside Drive across the river, where they took, this is the one that is now eastbound traffic uses. It will be based on this. If it goes at one point, it is changing into, well, it's still, you have the eastbound, but you have the lanes not in the middle, you have them on the sides. And this is Oxford Street and Warnicliffe. And finally, you have the downtown loop or couplet, where you have one way on Queens and one way on King Street. And as I mentioned, the city have already implemented this part of this project. And I think this year they will be working on Queens to provide the westbound loop. This is downtown. This is the project that has been implemented already. Of course, you don't see the red here is only as an indication to make it clear, but that doesn't mean the entire road will be pavement in red, only some locations, but that has been implemented already now. And this section of the road has been can be used for, is used for buses right now, but the system is not done yet. Richmond Street as Central Avenue. Again, that's Richmond Street. And this is this is Wellington and King. This is the hub, I would say, that intersects both loops, north, south, and east, west. So that would be the main transfer area for transit users if they are moving from one bus into the other bus. I think that takes me to the end of my presentation, and thank you for your patience, and I'm happy to take any questions, any discussion, anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Majid. Really appreciate your interesting talk. Okay, there's time for questions.
I am looking for a lot of questions, unless people didn't like hearing about complete streets.
Or everything was quite clear for them.
Or everything was easy. It's not like other stuff.
So while people are thinking about the questions, I have something unrelated to your talk. So Majid, you have worked both in private and government sectors, and students always think about deciding where to work down the road. How do you compare these two sectors? Also, you've been in academia as well, so maybe if you can talk about these three sectors.
Yeah, for sure. The difference between government and private. Government is more always looked at from a public perspective. It's a public service agency, and the government determine the policies and everything. Still technical, but It's more about how you can serve the public and look at the higher picture. The consultant, it's more of the project by projects, and it's more about how can you satisfy what the government wants from you. And I always advised my students, or anyone, even not students, someone who's graduated and they want to seek career, is to work for private first. They might work for the government. The good opportunity, and this is good in Canada here, or I'm not sure if it's all municipalities, but like City of London, they provide this opportunity for engineers to be engineers in training. And engineers training is a good opportunity because when they work at the City of London, they look at all aspects. I'm talking about civil engineering in particular. They rotate in 4 years between roads and transportation, water, wastewater, construction. They get an idea about all aspects of civil engineering, and then they decide how they want to go with their career. Definitely, this would be the best opportunity if they can take it. But if not, the first 5 years at least, it's good to go to the private sector to learn the technical stuff and understand it very well, how you design, how you analyze. If you go to the government after that, it's good for the future. It's more, I would say, secure sometimes, more secure. And also because as a public staff, when you supervise or when you manage a project, it's good that you understand it. It's good when the consultant bring you design drawings and planning and all this kind of stuff. Now you have more idea about everything. Teaching, of course, this is another thing. It's good. It's totally different because you are teaching the students the theory behind everything, and it's needed. I don't think I can compare it to industrial. It's totally different thing. Academia is just different.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
There's a few questions, first from E, and then Majid has raised his hand, and then there's another one. So is there any safety concern near where I am living? The township added bike lane beside the traffic lanes, make the driving lane narrower than before?
So one of the reason why people are going towards complete streets is safety, of course. So making the road narrow is not necessarily unsafe. It is safe. It is not, the issue is not because when you make a road narrower, you don't encourage speed on the road. What maybe is a safety issue if you have an on-street bike lane with no buffer. So there is no at least 1 meter painted marking between the travel lane, the automobile travel lane, and the bike lane. And that's why you can see from my presentation that other cities are moving towards segregating or separating the bike lane, cycling facilities or a bike lane from the normal traffic and make it on boulevard or off the street. So there might be some safety. If it's just on the street itself, it doesn't make the cyclist very safe. And I'm not talking about the professional cyclists who really like to cycle on the road. I'm talking about children or people who are just doing it for leisure. Yeah, they don't feel secure if they are beside the vehicles. I hope this answered the question.
Sure, thank you. Majid, please go ahead.
Hi, Professor, and thank you for this session. My question is about having some concerns on crossroads, intersections. Nowadays, I witness a lot of smartness during crossing the street. For example, you're waiting for buses, and while you have to wait for a green light of crossing the street. And so by doing so, a lot of people will be dubious to wait for the next green light or cross the bend roads and cross the streets while having red lights for pedestrians, I mean. So do you think there is some rooms or potential for having more smart spotlights for pedestrians and even for cars? Do you think?
Everything is possible, of course. I mean, the technology has emerged, and keep emerging, and new technologies. For example, if you go to traffic signals, for example, where you mentioned, it used to be just a flashing pedestrian symbol that is flashing, where now you have the counters, the time counter where it says, 20, 20, 19, 18, 17. So it counts in seconds to zero in order for people to know that, that the pedestrian crossing will end. The problem is that a lot of people, when they see, they continue crossing, even if it wasn't, even if they were not allowed to cross. And they don't know that even when the counter, once this counting starts, they should not step into the road and they should not cross. This was done only for people who are already crossing, and they need to know that they have to get into the other end before that. Now, I'm not sure if I can answer you right away, and there isn't anything now that I know that is more smart than just visually showing the traffic and showing pedestrians it's green or red, and that's why when they are allowed to cross or not. So there isn't anything really to date that I'm aware of. Engineering is not everything. Engineering is only part of the equation. Education is one thing, enforcement is one thing, and it will remain. I think this will remain. So you can't solve everything by engineering. I think people have to be educated enough and obey the law. I'm not sure if I answered your question, or at least partially answered.
Thank you. It was a complete answering that I expected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's another one asking about whether there will be more transportation courses, graduate level, as apparently your class is quite amazing to many of the students.
Well, this is something to be asked to Western University, but definitely one thing that I hope at one point Western University will do is to establish a full-time course and other courses, because the course I teach is only principle of transportation engineering, and it teaches you kind of just a high level with some details about all aspects of transportation engineering. Other universities, if you go to University of Toronto or Carleton University or Waterloo, I think you will see that there is a traffic engineering course by itself, geometric design course by itself, transportation planning by itself. So I think they will get there at one point where there will be some introduction to other courses. I hope it might take a few years, but at one point when this happens, then they can move into a graduate level program that they might introduce.
Okay, thank you. Hoda?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, engineer, for the informative presentation. My question is about the medians, which are basically just road markings. In my opinion, this is an unsafe condition because it's not physical, it's only painting on the asphalt. So I think it's not safe design applied here in Canada, especially. I would like to know your opinion about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Huda. So definitely medians are important in many locations. I know that many roads in Canada overall in general, and even in London, have been planned and constructed tens of years ago. And this, when this, for example, if you go and if you drive on Oxford Road or Warnicliffe Road, maybe these roads were initially planned 40 or 50 years ago when there wasn't too many commercial land use and population was really not as much as we can see now. So for safety, I do agree, medians are required. And that's why in these, if you look at the, let me go back to, for example, London, just show you the example. You can see that in the complete street, medians are shown even in the civic, in the urban thoroughfare and the civic road. We are showing a median here. And even Hyde Park, when it was widened a few years ago, a median was installed. So medians are safe because you prevent turning movements from happening, and you can go do turning movements only at signalized intersections. However, based on existing conditions, you cannot just go and block accesses because a lot of driveways are on the road, and they cannot make a U-turn, for example. And sometimes making the U-turn at signals are not necessarily safe. Sometimes you don't have wide lanes, and it's hard to go and block accesses existing driveways. In the future, every time there is a new project, reconstruction or anything, median is one of the things that is taken into consideration to be installed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question from Evan. With the rapid transit model for the buses, are we not making it more difficult for pedestrians to access the bus stops if they are positioned in the center of the road, hence making pedestrians cross the road even if the bus is traveling the same direction as the pedestrian is standing?
So this is, again, this is all part of the complete street approach that I mentioned. Again, complete streets is about accommodating all modes of transportation, whether it's people walking, crossing, or buses or anything. And these pedestrian crosswalk and the refuge island in the middle, you can see, provide an area for people to wait. They have to.
No.
Someone.
No, ese de.
So it's not necessarily making it difficult, because when they would cross to the middle lane, not here, for example, let me see a good example here. So you have the bus here, so they can cross and just go to the bus station or to the bus stop. There isn't anything difficult as long as it is designed safe with traffic signals and everything. It should be fine. There is no difference between this and any other existing situation.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right, one last question from Zihan.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation. And well, I have few years working experience in China, and now I'm reading the master's degree in Western. As you know, there are no transportation costs in here. So my question is, where can I learn more about the transportation things in Canada? Because I think the regulation, the working process is different in China and Canada, and I want to work here in the future. So I think I need to learn more about the transportation and some regulations and something like that in Canada. So could you recommend some resource or like books or something like that that I can learn more about these things? Thank you.
Yeah, so if I understood your question correctly, so there is the academic thing or knowing about transportation engineering and planning. And that's, as I said, I mean, there is the course that is offered by Western, but also there are other universities in Ontario and other provinces where if you want to seek a graduate program, master's or PhD, you can definitely go to these universities, institutions to be specialized more in transportation. If you are talking about just you as someone who is using as a transportation user, for example, in the city of London or any other city, you can always go to the website of the municipal website and check the rules of this local municipalities. You can also go to the Ministry of Transportation website, which is the provincial jurisdiction, the government, and where you can also learn about the bylaws and laws and what you need to understand. There is also the Highway Traffic Act that regulate everything, which is also you can get from the website as well. So there are many venues, of course, you can search it up, but you can learn more about the the policies of transportation in Canada. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
All right. That was a very good discussion. Thank you very much again, Dr. Majid, for your excellent presentation. And we're glad to have you with us at Western. I'm sure you share lots of experience during your classes as well. So much appreciated. And I hope we will have more presentations from you in the future too.
Yes, thank you, Riza, for having me, and thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.